sit and I'll sit. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't see what the two was because he I had it on my cameras, but then I thought, I saw it. Try to line it up on these bright yellow ones. Black shorts. Okay. Oh, okay. So you would wear those to the church picnic? Change in the program here. Pat Jordan is absent.
Good morning. Welcome. My name is Kathy Cortez, and I am a member of the Board of Trustees. I am so glad it is cool in here. I hope you are enjoying the respite from the heat outside and the comfort of being together in this peaceful place. And if you're joining us online, we welcome you as part of our virtual congregation. Welcome if this is your first time or if you've been coming since before there was an internet. All are invited to be part of creating this community where we can live, learn, and love together. As a congregation, we strive to care for and connect with every person. After the service, all are welcome for conversation and connections with hot and cold beverages and snacks in the fireside room just across the foyer. Leading our service today is our guest minister, Reverend Dr. Richard Speck. Richard Speck served as executive director of the Joseph Priestley District, this one, and also served the UU Church in Vero Beach, Florida. Now in retirement, he's very active in social justice work in the Wilmington area. And he has recently visited Transylvania, near and dear to my heart. Oh, and also this morning, Dawn Star Sarah Sporschelt is back again with A Time for All Ages. We're so glad she's back here. Pat Jordan is unable to join us this morning as planned, so David Brown, who's just returned last night, is filling in and working with Jody Brown to do today's music. I want to recognize the many people who support all of us with their service today. The AV team, the greeters, the ushers, the coffee makers. It takes a village to support all that happens here. Please take a look at the events that are happening during the week. They're on the back of the order of service, and there are even more happenings listed on the calendar page of our website, www.mluc.org. For now, please silence your electronic devices and join me in affirming our mission statement. Together, we transform lives through love, service, and our welcoming faith.
Good morning. For our chalice lighting today, a reading called Chalice Lighting by Lois E. Van Leer. We light this chalice not because we must, but because we may. We light this chalice not because we have the truth, but because we each come bearing and seeking many truths. We light this chalice in connection across culture, distance, class, and language. We light this chalice that our religion may be a beacon of light, hope, and justice, we light this chalice to kindle our hearts and our minds. Now please rise in body or spirit and join us in hymn 1008, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place.
The very inappropriate word. I regret to inform you, Sam, that there will be no actual inappropriate words in this. Michael loved words. He found lots of words on signs. You can read the words. Pizzeria. And a few on TV. He picked up words at practice and downtown, and even in school, that's the spokes, where Mrs. Dixon gave the kids one new spelling word every day. He especially liked little words for big things, fast, and big words for little things, and easy words for hard things, and hard words for soft things. Every night, he took all his words home and put them in a box under his bed. But one morning on the bus, Michael picked up a word he had never heard before. We will be bleeped. When everyone was off the bus, Michael's sister said, "Michael, that's a very inappropriate word." "What does inappropriate mean?" Michael asked his friend. "Bad," whispered his friend. So Michael hid the word in his pocket. That afternoon, Michael heard the word at the park and on the radio, and even in the basement where his mom was trying to fix the toilet. "Dear," said his dad, "don't you think that's an inappropriate word?" Michael could see there was something kind of bad about it, but there was always also something about it that he kind of liked. The next day at recess, he showed the word to his friends. "It's bad," he whispered. Scott tried the word out loud. Sharon tried it louder. Then Michael yelled it at the top of his lungs. Michael, said the recess supervisor, that is a very inappropriate word. By lunchtime, a few other people were saying the word. Then in class, it seemed like everybody was saying it. Class, said Mrs. Dixon, where did that word come from? Michael. I see, said Mrs. Dixon. Michael, please see me after school. Finally, the bell rang. Michael, said Mrs. Dixon. Michael, Michael, Michael. I need a little help in the library. I'm running out of spelling words, said Mrs. Dixon. Could you dig up a few new ones? I'll try, said Michael. Michael found words underwater, words in the sky, words underground, words that spy, words that fight, words that sing, vibrato, words for doing crazy things. Sick words, trick words, loud words, slick words, words for nasty, words for fast, old words that new words surpassed. Anybody have a favorite up there? I kind of like dynamite myself. Words that crackle in your head. Words that won't get out of bed. Words that are solid. Words that are square. Words that you have to handle with care. Words stuck together, which is quite a picture if you think about it. Words that cut in half. Words to make a baby laugh. Words that stink. Words that soar. Words you can't get out the door. I have a door like that. Michael dug up new words for 2 hours and 45 minutes. Then Mrs. Dixon said, "Thank you, Michael, that's enough for today." "Okay, Mrs. D," said Michael, "but is it all right if I take a couple of these words home with me?" "Sure," said Mrs. D. Michael had so many new words that he lost track of that very inappropriate word. So, of course, someone else picked it up. The end. Children and youth may meet me in the atrium. We're going to pack backpacks for our Family Promise families today, and we need to figure out our plan.
In July and August, the recipient of MLUC's offering outreach is our longtime and beloved partner, Family Promise of Montgo, PA and the Main Line, a registered 501c3 nonprofit organization whose primary mission is to partner with the community to address homelessness and hunger one family at a time. Please watch this video that tells you more about the organization.
Two strong organizations, one shared mission. Family Promise Montgo, PA and Family Promise of the Main Line are officially one stronger, united Family Promise. Together, we support families in Montgomery County as they transition out of homelessness and food insecurity, offering not just shelter or basic needs, but stability, dignity, and the space to rebuild. This partnership is a promise renewed, a promise growing stronger. Because when we come together, we create more than safe places to sleep. We create opportunities for new beginnings, for healing, for hope. Our strength lies in partnership, in community, in the belief that every family deserves a future filled with possibility. The challenges ahead are real, but so is our team, so are our families, and so are you. We invite you to be a part of this promise. Learn more on our website, connect with us on social media, and join us as we partner with the community to address homelessness and hunger, one family at a time.
Family Promises work aligns with UU Principles number 1, the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and number 2, justice, equity, and compassion in human relationships, and our UU values of love, justice, equity, and interdependence. If you wish to make a cashless donation, either at home or here in the sanctuary, please scan the QR code inside the order of service, or you can make a cashless donation both here and at home by texting and following the directions on the screen behind me. The offering will now be gratefully received. Will the ushers please come forward? It is our custom to speak aloud our personal joys, sorrows, and milestones, a sacred time of sharing where our individual paths converge and we share each person's story, knowing that no one walks alone. Candles of Community lifts up the milestones that shape us and the grief that humbles us, knowing that joy is multiplied and sorrow softened when we hold a space for them together. After each candle is lit, please join me in saying, "We hold you in our hearts." Today, we light a candle of hopeful persistence to stand against global conflicts, humanitarian crises, and systemic injustice. We direct these flickers of light toward ongoing wars, displaced families, refugees, and the protection of vulnerable public institutions. We grant peace to all suffering from war, and we hold you in our hearts. We light a candle of concern and love for Eileen Moran, who had a fall and has broken her right shoulder. No surgery is indicated, which is great, just a sling and dealing with amazing pain. She requests no calls or visits, please, but notes and cards would be welcome. She has local daughters, her husband Jeff, and their residential community for support, so there is no need for additional help at this time. For Eileen and for her family, we hold you in our hearts. And Amy Kokas lights a candle of gratitude for our Family Promise volunteers. We especially want to thank Bob Batt and Maureen McCarthy for their extraordinary leadership during our recent hosting. Together with an incredible team of more than 40 volunteers, they welcomed and cared for 3 families experiencing homelessness for a record-breaking 2.5 weeks here at the church. Our volunteers prepared and served dinners each evening, created a special holiday feast, did laundry, celebrated a birthday, made several Costco runs, and warmly welcomed and supported many first-time volunteers. Every meet, every air mattress, every conversation, and every act of kindness helped to create a place where our guest families could experience dignity, hospitality, and hope. With deep gratitude for every volunteer whose generosity of time and spirit and treasure made this possible, we hold you in our hearts. And whether spoken aloud or carried in the quiet of your heart, your truths are welcome here. For all joys and sorrows too deep for words, we light one more candle and hold you in our hearts. Sorry, my pages are out of order. So the reading today, for your pleasure, is called How Little It Takes by William Wallace Rose. How little it takes to make us sad. A word of derision, maybe, or contempt is enough. A sharp word of criticism, or a face turned away, or a shrug of the shoulders, an unthinking word, or a deed of omission. Yes, how little it takes to pass a cloud over a sky otherwise bright, or to chill the wind that has blown warmly and friendly. And how little it takes to make us happy. A cheery hello from a passing friend, only a sign of understanding from a neighbor or a coworker. Only the inner satisfaction of knowing that a good piece of work has been brought in and that knowing others know it too. How it takes very little to make our world a pretty good world after all, and everybody in it the salt of the earth to us. It takes very little to make us anxious, no more than a vagrant thought or a whispered threat, no more than the remotest possibility of danger to someone we love, no more than a vague disquiet which comes sometimes from we know not where. Yes, it takes very little to set the heart to fluttering and start worrisome thoughts running circles in the mind. Likewise, it takes very little to make us brave. Someone's confidence in us is enough. Someone's dependence on us in a pinch, someone's hero worship of us, no matter how unheroic we may feel. Yes, it takes very little to nerve us to stand up to life. And since it doesn't take much to lift the sad from their sorrow, deliver the fearful from their fear, and rally the wavering, isn't it a crime not to do so when and where the opportunity is ripe? Who can ever justify such a failure?
The reading that I have for today is How to Use Bad Words, adapted from Remy Wilkins. First picture. One day, the author Samuel Clemens cut himself shaving. He was an inveterate foul mouth, and on this occasion, recited the entirety of his iniquitous vocabulary. Now, when he finished, his wife, hoping to shock him, repeated every word he said. Clemens responded, "You have the words, dear, but you don't know the tune." Now, by all accounts, including his own, Clemens, better known to us as Mark Twain, held his vulgarity in high regard. Profanity, he said, is more necessary to me than is immunity from colds. And he also said, profanity provides a relief denied even to prayer. Now, he recognized that society did not share his affectation, and nor did his favorite language might persist into eternity. He said, "Let us swear while we may, for in heaven it will not be allowed." And then he also added, "If I cannot swear in heaven, I shall not stay there." But during the pilgrimage of this life, we ought to be able to swear or curse according to Clemens. He said, "The idea that no gentleman ever swears is all wrong. He can swear and still be a gentleman if he does it in a nice and benevolent and affectionate way." I grew up in the South, and we had our own words to say something. So when you come from the South, you learn to mind your manners. One way to do that is by selecting sweet sayings to express your salty sentiments. Some of the top terms and phrases that I would include are, "Bless your heart." "Thank you for sharing," which means shut up. "Oh, my stars." "Crud." "Mother of pearl." "What the Sam Hill?" "I'll pray for you," meaning you're hopeless. "Good gravy," and "heavens to Betsy." So feel free to use these when you are thinking of using something that might be less appropriate. But we will explore different words in the sermon that I hope that you can use. So I want to start by thanking you for the invitation to preach here again. It's been 2 years since I was here. And I want to thank John Morehouse, who is a good friend of mine. He was a classmate at Meadville with me 100 years ago. And so I hope that last week you had torrential rainstorms here. And I hope that that didn't cause any damage to any of you. I was coming back from Milwaukee, where David was, and on Sunday, and I encountered some of that mess. How many of you are curious about what I'm going to say today? I figured as much. Did a few choice words cross your mind? Are you afraid that I'll use some of them? Well, I'll tell you. This sermon is PG rated by the Sermonic Review Board. as suitable for all audiences. Now, I just made up that organization. I don't know what a board would do and say about some of my other sermons. I grew up in a rather dysfunctional family in Memphis, Tennessee. As a young child, I witnessed both of my parents drinking and smoking heavily in the house. I was the youngest of 3 boys, living in a 3-bedroom house with my parents and my grandfather and 1 bathroom. While he was alive, my grandfather shielded me from some of the verbal confrontations between my father and my mother after they had been drinking too much. But still, I was assaulted with language not fit for the ears of a young boy. There were times I ran out of the house into the neighborhood to escape what was happening inside the home. Now, fortunately for me, my parents moderated their drinking during my teenage years, and life was much quieter for me and for them. Now, if you've lived any amount of time, you would be familiar with all of the words that are only 4 letters that we have used to throw at each other in insulting ways. Some describe physical acts between 2 people. Others identify specific body parts. And still others name objects from human functions. Now, I bet you now are all trying to name all those words in your mind as I speak. So all I have to do is name the first letter, and you may know what that word is. S, F, C, D, H, and P are now common in everyday speech. And there's probably other letters I could have used, but you get the gist. Now, if you don't recognize that letter, good for you. You haven't been exposed to it. But I overheard a young man on his cell phone in a grocery store using some of those words in a casual conversation. Didn't care who was around him. And we now say damn and hell without thinking, and we forget that once they were forbidden words in civil society. When I was a student in Chicago, almost 40 years ago, I was doing my internship at Third Unitarian Church in Western Chicago. Reverend Don Wheat was my internship supervisor, with the express purpose of helping me to understand the day-to-day work of a parish minister. This included writing sermons and preaching to the congregation. Well, on one particular Sunday, I was sitting in the pews while Don was preaching. Now, he was a down-to-earth kind of guy with few pretensions. All of a sudden, he used a 4-letter word in a sermon to describe a certain situation happening in society. Probably something political, knowing Don. I was shocked that he or anyone else would use such a word in a sermon. I recall that the congregation didn't react at all, but took it in stride as the service went on. Now, afterwards, I asked him, well, why did you use that particular word? Well, he responded that the word succinctly encapsulated what he was trying to convey in the sermon. I never forgot that lesson. I've only used 4-letter words in a sermon very, very rarely. But now I want to explore with you all of the four-letter words that we are most appropriate to use in a congregation. I can think of many that we use all the time. These words need to be in our vocabulary as we live into our faith as Unitarian Universalists. Now, the big one I'll start with is love. Our General Assembly changed the bylaws recently to emphasize love, and the new language reads as such. Section C-2.2, Values and Covenant. As Unitarian Universalists, we covenant, congregation to congregation, and through our association, to support and assist one another in our ministries. We draw from our heritages of freedom, reason, hope, and courage, building on the foundation of love. Love is the power that holds us together and is at the center of our shared values. We are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love. Now, love has been at the center of universalism since its founding in America by the Reverend John Murray in 1770 over at Barnegat Bay in New Jersey. Anyone ever been to Murray Grove? A few of you? Yeah. So you know where it is. It's on the Atlantic Ocean almost. Well, Universalists believe that God loved humanity so much so that God would never condemn people to an eternity of punishment in hell. Orthodox Christians of the earliest 19th century in the South shunned the Universalists as heretics and taunted them by calling them the no-hell people. Well, I recently gave Janet, my wife, a t-shirt that reads, "Love the hell out of this world." So if love is at the center, how are we to live our shared values as people of faith? I think we need some additional four-letter words that will amplify how we love each other. You might think of others in addition to this list. It's not comprehensive. We don't have all day. But first up is care. If we are to center love, then we are to care for one another and our earth. Now, I'm using the sense of one another in that broader context. It isn't just the people in this room or this congregation, but the people in our community, our state, our country, and our world. Several years ago, Janet and I had solar panels put on our roof. I think y'all have solar panels here, don't you? No? Someone's saying yes and some people are saying no. So yeah, so they might be. You'll have to go out and look. Well, in Delaware, the electrical utility has to buy any excess power that we generate and give us credit. We have a meter that goes in both directions. We drive an inexpensive electric car that I drove here today, and we do recycling as much as is humanly possible. But in addition to those activities, I've also recently begun giving out small amounts of money in microloans to people around the world who are trying to improve their lives. These people pay back the loans, and I then reinvest in additional people. Now, most of my loans are for $25 each, but they are pooled with other people giving similar amounts. Collectively, we are able to lift those who we will never meet and know that they are helping to build a better life for their family and their community. Now, there's many agencies that do this, but the one that I'm using is called Kiva, K-I-V-A. So if you're not familiar with it, look them up. That is my vehicle for loaning money. They are a nonprofit with partners all over the world. And so over time, I've added to that total, and I now am loaning close to $1,000 to 36 individuals in 13 countries who are paying me back so I can in turn loan it back out again. So think of what the impact would be if each of you loaned out just $25 to another person. Now, knowing that it's a higher cost of living area, I would bet that a meal out here in a restaurant costs more than $25, especially if you have something to drink. Closer to home, we support the local food bank with regular monthly donations. Now, this leads to another word that I think we should be using in church. Our extending love into the world gives us and others hope for a better world, for a better tomorrow. 1 Corinthians 13, verses 4 through 8 reminds us, love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. So hope is an optimism that our lives will get better. Now, another word that I think we ought to have in our vocabulary is the word give. When we look to support our churches, we are asked to give of our time, our talent, and our treasure. And y'all did that just recently. Now, this congregation would fall apart if everyone who does something to support it quit one day. Think about all the people who put this service together. You've got your AV team, you've got your worship associate, you've got your board of trustees, you've got your musicians, you've got the ushers, and you've got the people who are making sure we'll have something to drink and eat after the service. Not to mention there was probably someone cleaning this place earlier. So while some churches can afford to have more staff and pay them, even those need the volunteer pool to keep things functioning. Back at First Unitarian in Wilmington, I'm trained to be part of the AV team, and I do my stint back behind the desk back there. We have it up in our balcony, and running the equipment and interfacing with the people who shape the service and making sure that those online, hello online, have a good worship experience that goes smoothly. And I don't think I need to dwell on the treasure part of the word give, do I? This congregation needs to pay its bills for maintaining the building, paying its staff, contributing to the larger Unitarian Universalist Association, and supporting the other charitable activities in the community, like you did during the offertory today. We're long past the days when a barter system would suffice. I don't know any of you have offered a chicken to Reverend John Morehouse as part of your payment. What about the word hear? That is, to listen, not to be someplace. Not here, but here. I think that we humans, sometimes, we need to listen to others more. Going back to love being at the center, do we open our hearts to hear others who might want a sympathetic ear? I continue to be amazed when I meet others that they will go on and on about themselves and never stop to ask me a question about me. Just recently, I engaged in a conversation with another member of my congregation who shall remain nameless. He had said he had just had a major repair on his car. Well, we talked about that and where he lived and the motorcycles he had ridden over the years. But not once did he ask me something about my life. He didn't hear me as I stood there for some time. I finally had to break away. If we are to truly hear one another, we need to develop a curiosity about each other. What does the other person care about? What have they experienced in their lives? What can I learn from them that will make my life better? The deeper we know one another, the more empathy we have with each other, and we can be there for them, both in the happy times as well as the sad ones that each of us have. And that leads me to another four-letter word that we need in church. We need to hold each other. Now, this is more than the physical touching or hugging. It is being with each other in the deepest sense of that word. When I was serving a congregation in Florida, a lesbian couple started attending services. Now, this is back in the mid-90s. They came to me to ask if they could have a union ceremony. This was back before gay marriage was legalized, and many Unitarian Universalist congregations would celebrate the commitment of two men or two women with a union ceremony. I don't know if y'all have ever witnessed one of those here. While it carried no legal weight at the time, it did recognize the commitment of two individuals who loved one another and wanted a religious ceremony. Well, I agreed, and we set the date. They had also recently conceived a baby who had been born and wanted to have a naming ceremony as part of the other union service. Well, the congregation hadn't always been welcoming to LGBTQ plus people. They didn't want to be known as the gay church in town. But with patient work, the congregation had come around, and we were ready. Back then, we had the Women's Alliance, which took care of food and drink. Did y'all ever have a Women's Alliance here? Maybe. Might be too far back in the history. Well, when I announced that we were going to have our first union ceremony and baby naming, the Women's Alliance enthusiastically volunteered to host the reception. They held this couple and their baby in care and surrounded them with love. Now, there are many more four-letter words that I could name. I haven't mentioned pray, which is used for our aspirations of ourselves and each other. Given the shape of the world today, we need to pray. We need to pray for common sense to prevail in our national leaders. Right now, the world is in a very dangerous place. I haven't mentioned rest or busy. We need to sometimes step back to rest, to recharge ourselves. Now, the Unitarians took the summers off in Boston, and they closed their churches. The joke was that the Unitarians were the only ones God trusted to come back in the fall. And we shouldn't be so busy that we lose sight of why we have a church in the first place. remember that if love is at the center of our faith, let us not be so busy that we forget what we should be doing to make our world better for each of us. The last word I want to use is gift. You, each of you, are a gift to this congregation. You bring your energy, you bring your curiosity and your passion to this congregation each Sunday that you are here. Never feel that what you do is not appreciated by others. Now, they may not say it directly to you, but you are noticed and you are missed when you aren't present. You matter in other people's lives. Now, my hope is that these four-letter words will resonate with you and inspire you to use them with abandon in your interactions with each other. They are much better than the other four-letter words in common usage. So remember to love the hell out of the world. Is that too much to ask? Amen. Please rise in body or spirit to sing our closing hymn, number 124, Be That Guide, in the gray hymnal. Our closing words are by John Morgan. In the end, it won't matter how much we have, but how generously we have given. It won't matter how much we know, but rather how well we live. And it won't matter how much we believe, but how deeply we love.